Hello and welcome back to Deconstructed. I'm your host Sam Animo Mackenzie, and with me, as always, is Harry Nero Richards. And that's how you doing today, Harry? I've not asked you for a while, so we'll start with that.
Yeah, we're living. Been a very boring week actually, but not in CS, but in my life. So I think we should go straight to the CS. To be honest, it's not very exciting. To be honest,
Okay.
How are you?
Yeah, about the same, really. So let's talk about Counter-Strike, because that's all people are here for anyway. And we thought today we'd talk about Liquid, because we're recording this a day away from the Blast roster lock, so this could be completely pointless by tomorrow when they don't actually sign any of the players they've been reported to sign. But fuck it, it's not fun if we don't take risks in life. So a few months ago, Liquid, they got a bit shit for switching to an international roster. They signed they already had Yekindar. They signed Patsy. They made Yekindar the full-time IGL. They signed Rainmaker. And it was pretty fucking bad, to be honest. It didn't really go well. It never looked like it was... Well, I say it never looked like it was going to go well. There was, like, their first two games against G2 and FaZe. They looked all right. And I think they've probably won about one game since. So, Harry.
Yes.
What do you think went wrong with that team? Because I know you've been quite vocal about it on Twitter, haven't you?
I just think it's an absolute dumpster fire from the start. To be honest, I just think, and what it really shocked me because Daps is a guy who's got a good reputation as a scout, right? Like he's got a good reputation as a bit of a GM type figure, and he's looked at his team and thought, you know what we need? We need another really over aggressive entry, and we need another really passive T-side. Like, how do you look at a team that has Naf and Yekindar in it and conclude that? Because what they've done is they've got two twins and then oSee, and then they're trying to win Counter-Strike games. It was just never going to happen. I genuinely do not understand how they thought the T-side would ever work. And it's not even like you've got an IGL that can knit things together. You've got Yekindar.
I might be making this up, but wasn't there a thing where they tried to sign other people and didn't get them? Wasn't that a thing?
I'm sure they did. I don't remember who it was. I can't remember. Either way, you can't be ending up with profiles that are so similar to your existing players. They'd be good backups. Patsy would be a great backup for Yekindar. You can't play the same team as him, and I don't think that was ever going to work. Yeah, I don't think it was ever going to work with just how similar the players were. And I think it goes under the radar, but Rainmaker was a really promising tier 2 guy. If he goes into a team, has his normal roles, I don't think he would have been anywhere near as bad as he was in Liquid. I think it's actually quite unfair. I think it's probably held his career back quite a lot now that he's accepted. Like they were just like, oh yeah, he's passive on T-side. We'll just make him an anchor. It'll be fine. And then he's like not a very good anchor, and people are like, why would they sign Rainmaker? Fucking bot. It's like, well, I think in different scenario, maybe if he got the jump up in a year's time, maybe it came a bit early, but I still think there's a player in Rainmaker, and I think Liquid made him look terrible, and I think that's more on Liquid than on him.
Well, I think Rainmaker, in that sense, it kind of sums up. And I know, like, tier 1 teams have been doing this for ages. I mean, I'm pretty sure Liquid did the exact same thing with fucking Grim years ago.
Yep.
But versatility, right? Like when you're down quite a few tiers, you're not even in a tier. You're just some random guy who plays CS. You're like, oh yeah, I prefer to play Mirage Con, but we got like 3 other Mirage Con players. I'll just play B this round, and it doesn't matter because there's no real speciality in normal games. And then the idea of versatility for me in CS does go very much under the radar in that it is an incredibly specialized thing to actually be versatile in Counter-Strike. And I think that's even to the extent that pro teams just don't realize versatility isn't actually that much of a thing.
I completely agree with that. I think players that can play multiple spots, multiple roles, are just like so valuable from a team building side because there's 2 ways to look at it. You're going to build your team like for right now and only think these are the 5 players for the rest of our lives. And in that case, then yeah, versatility is not important, but that's just not how it works. Like if you've got players like, well, we'll get on to Twistzz, but players like Twistzz who can play literally any rifling role, like that's just so perfect to have in a situation like this. But I think just before we move on from the old lineup, I think the other underrated thing is that Naf was their best player, and he had all his roles changed as well. Like on T side, like I think criticism of Rainmaker's fair because Rainmaker got all his spots on T side. Rainmaker got the positions he wanted on T side, and it was Naf that moved. It was their best player that moved. And then Yekindar moved for Patsy as well. Like, I don't understand what the logic was behind it. I don't know if Yekindar was like, right, if I'm the IGL, I have to play the traditional IGL roles on T side as well. Naf is just too nice. Probably just said, yeah, I'm fine with whatever. Because he's another one who has played everything above elementary probably in his career. Like, he's able to do whatever he wants. But yeah, I just think, I think Daps had to go. I think if Daps was involved in this, and I'm sure Yekindar was involved as well, Joker Steve is apparently the general manager, and if that involves anything like what a general manager normally does, then it's insane.
Well, he probably booked some flights and a boot camp. I doubt.
Yes,
he does.
this is the thing. It's
the rest of it.
When
very
Steve
warped term in Counter-Strike.
When Steve and Pecker are the general managers, I'm like, okay, but that actually means like you're just a manager of the general goings on. You're not actually fucking in the back room looking at spreadsheets, are you? So
you tell the lads when their shuttle is.
Yeah, that seems more like what it is. So that in that case, I think Daps just did have to go. Even though I think that's a real shame because I think Daps, on paper, he should have been a really good guy for GM. And I'd be really interested to know what the decision making was behind the scenes. Maybe it is just missing out on targets, but
I'm sure it must have been that for the most part.
It must have been, but Patsy, man. Like, the Rainmaker pickup, I don't even hate. Like, I don't even think Rainmaker was that bad an idea. But I think Patsy was fucking dreadful as an idea. Because I think it's going to stall Patsy's
he'd already
as well.
dropped off. He'd already dropped off by that point anyway.
It's not because
like,
for a long time.
Wasn't even the right spirit player to get.
Yeah. Really rough. Really rough.
Yeah, I don't know. Just on Daps, though, before we move on to this new lineup, kind of hope he doesn't bother coaching for a while. Like,
should we kill player?
Go play in some tier 2 and A team. Like, you're probably good for money for a little bit. Go help out your scene a bit more. Or, like, I don't know, I swear EG still have a load of shit backroom staff, but like, if he can go and help Axed, I think his name is, like, go help him out. The guy's like 22 and he's coaching a tier 1 team.
Wasn't Malik coached him?
No, I think he's like assistant. I think they promoted Axed with.
Oh yeah, it's Axed now. Yeah, you're right.
And he's like really young. Really young.
But yeah, I you don't want Daps to disappear completely because I think, like, when they said that Daps could be IGL, I was like, honestly, like, minus Patsy plus Daps, that's probably just a better team, just because it fits.
I mean, I know it was like a lower level.
And they just didn't give him a go, did they?
It was a lower level of opposition at the showdown, but it didn't do particularly badly. I wasn't like.
He also wasn't IGLing, man.
Well, I guess, but I don't think someone like Daps plays differently if he's IGLing or not. To be honest,
yeah, true. But
I think you can apply that to like a Nico or a Yekindar. I don't think you can apply it to a Daps. Like let's be fair, Hooksy's not going to get 15 kills every game.
I saw what I meant.
Like, no, but that is.
Yeah, like, I know what you're saying. That's just not what I meant. But yeah, let's go on to the new
No, but what I
team
mean is he didn't get 4 kills every game. But yes, fuck this old one. Let's talk about the new team. Yeah. So let's start with the IGL then. Let's start with cadiaN, which really should prove to be one of the biggest signings of the last few years, right? Like, cadiaN's
unthinkable, yeah.
cadiaN's record in the last few years is incredible. Yes, there might not be the trophy wins, but we spoke about this in the heroic episode. I think when it gets to the point where you look at it in hindsight, that is someone who has dragged people to overachieving. You know, they'd get out onto a stage and they'd be having in-heart palpitations or whatever, like, and they still manage to finish runners-up so many times. They managed to win a couple of blast events, major runner-up, major semi-finalists, whatever, like, you name it, they did it, except win an IEM or a major. And he is someone who has a definite style, which Yekindar really didn't. So how much of an upgrade is cadiaN for you?
I mean, it's massive. Like a few months ago, you never even consider the possibility of signing cadiaN, right? Like I think, like he's the one that every team would have wanted. Like he's the guy who's really got the handle on the situation. I think the one con of him is that if he comes in, he does have to be the AWPer, and that's always going to limit your firepower somewhat. There's also the angle of, is he going to be able to keep the same family environment in like an international team with very different cultures and everything like that? Like I don't think it's going to be a slam dunk, but at the same time, like it's fucking cadiaN. He's a top 3 IGL for me, even after the end of Heroic, at least. So like you're liquid, you're in the dumps, and you can still attract someone like cadiaN. I think that's really impressive. Like I know Nip were in for him as well. So
yeah, I mean, take your pick out of those two. You know which one you're going to go to.
Yeah, but I feel like it's cadiaN, man. Those can't have been the only 2 teams, right? You know, so I think it's props to Liquid for convincing him, and I'm hoping that they've given him a good degree of control over the future of the team. And I think a huge reason why he has come, I think, is, and we'll talk about him in connection to IGL, like Zeus coming back as coach, I think is massive. I know he's not had, like he's actually had pretty terrible results since coming back to Fluxo and stuff. But this is like a historic name. This is someone who took Liquid right to, like, Zeus is a huge part of why Liquid got that Grand Slam, even though he left like 6 months before, right? Like that's the Zeus and Taco iteration of that team is kind of what elevated those Liquid players to being able to do that, in my opinion. And I think Zeus coming back is massive. I think Zeus coming back is what, when you approach someone like cadiaN and it's Zeus doing it, you're like, okay, I'm listening now. Because I think a Zeus cadiaN pivot actually can be really, really good to build this team around. And yeah, there's always going to be question marks over his AWPing, but when you're replacing someone like oSee, it's a lot easier to handle than if he did go into a different team and have to start rifling. Like that's just going to be an easier transition because oSee's already like very similar profile-wise as an AWPer. Obviously, like not quite as aggressive maybe, but still predominantly he's there to throw flashbangs and hold angles for riflers. Like that's his job. It's not like a star AWPer. It's not the rest of the players aren't gonna have to change their way they play around cadiaN because oSee was already doing a lot of the same stuff. At least from my eye test. So I think cadiaN's massive, and I think the IGL aspect of, can he bring the heroic type death ball, heavy trading? Can he bring that to an international team that has quite a lot of individuals who are used to doing their own thing? And that's the ultimate question of is he going to do that? And does he need to do that? Can he still be a good IGL and like a bit more of a withdrawn type of style? Like that's the question I'm really interested in seeing the answer to.
I think that is a question that we will get an answer to, but I don't think we'll get an answer to that for a while, because I think he will first try to do the heroic style, because why wouldn't you? It's, you know, it's your style. But yeah, I'm not fully convinced it will work with this team. Like, I feel like that takes a long time to actually build up. And yeah, like Naf and Twistzz might be able to plug and play something like that. When you factor in Yekindar and Skullz, is it necessarily possible? I don't know. And that's when you get into the territory of, you know, now we need a new system. Can you call another system, or can you only call your own style? Because that it is like, that's another thing that people don't think is going to be that hard to do. It's just, oh, it's still Counter-Strike, you're still calling Counter-Strike. Like, no, like Counter-Strike can be incredibly different when you're getting down to like the fine details like that. And, you know, it could blow up, but God, I've just got a feeling it won't. Like, I think cadiaN is smart enough. You can see, based on mid-round calls in Heroic, like, the guy definitely thinks on his feet. And yeah, okay, like, Stown might be making some of those calls, someone else might be making some of those calls. Like, that is how it works higher up. But cadiaN definitely has enough going for him from that time with Heroic that I at least have confidence that he will be able to adapt to a new team. Because, I mean, let's be fair, with the names included here, it's not even like, you know, he doesn't really have a Twistzz. Like, even things like that, like, you know, we're talking him going to a completely different, like, a completely different group of players. Like, there isn't necessarily a Twistzz. There isn't so much a Stown. Like, closest is probably like Naf and Shush, and even then, not really. Like,
yeah,
he's going to have to adapt. So I think he's at least confident in himself that he can do it. And if he's confident in himself to do it, then fuck it. Like, I don't see why people shouldn't be confident in him.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I do think it's going to be a real big challenge to get all these profiles into a system that even slightly resembles Heroic. And he's still, people will always ask that question of people who have very defined styles of, can you adapt? Can you bring a little variation? Because people say this about Klopp. People were like, oh, it's all going to work in the Premier League. But then, like, you've watched Klopp play now, and obviously the cadiaN Klopp thing, I've said it before, but I think it is similar. But Klopp came to Liverpool, and they do play very, very differently to the Dortmund team, right? Like, it's like these guys are the smartest people in our game. They're not idiots. They can adapt. Yeah. They can evolve their system so that they keep parts of the like Klopp. We still press a little, like Liverpool still press quite a lot in certain situations, but they're not heavy metal anymore. And I think we'll see a similar team with cadiaN in international teams. Like, they're going to have that CT aggression, but it's not going to be every round. It's not going to be as because it never got predictable on Heroic, but you know what I mean. It's not going to be, what you're in for. There's going to have to be a bit of a guessing game with it, and I think that's the natural evolution of cadiaN, and I'm very, very excited to see it around this Liquid team. I think he's a great pickup.
Yeah, me too. So before we move on, then, you kind of have to ask, because he's the one sort of losing out for it. Is it unfair on oSee? Like, what's your thoughts on oSee and his time with Liquid? Do you think he'll land on his feet?
Well, I think all things very difficult, which is, I know you agree, but most people don't. And I think oSee probably got as high as he could possibly get. Like, I think the last 6 months, I think he's really improved. He's really improved. Like, he's been much more vocal. He seems to be taking much more initiative, but yeah, it's not really his fault. I think he's the best North American AWPer by a long way, but I just think CS is at that point where they probably needed either a star AWPer or an AWPer IGLing if you're having that out. Because in average AWPer, if you've got the salaries that Liquid are paying, Yekindar and probably cadiaN and the new guys as well, like, that's like, you need to be hunting for trophies. And I think oSee was always going to be a little bit of a limiting factor, even though he really improved and would be a really solid AWPer. I think he's better than Hulzerk. I don't know if that's a hot take. I think he's better than Hulzerk. I'm not sure I'd make the move.
I
because
agree.
Hulzerk, like, chemistry-wise, whatever, but I think oSee is, like, he's probably a top 20 AWPer, I'd say. And he should be in a top 20 team. It's just whether it'll work out for him. So I don't think Complexity should be making that move. I think he's probably about as similar realistic as cadiaN individually, if I had to say that. And so you can see why they make the move. I don't think it's harsh on oSee, really. I think it was fairly inevitable for a team of Liquid's ambition.
Yeah. And in terms of ability, yeah, is at least equal to cadiaN. If not, maybe even slightly better at
probably slightly better.
certain points. It's just cadiaN has the clutch factor that, I mean, oSee's not bad in clutches, but cadiaN's clutch factor is obviously, like, is very impressive. But I agree. I think, if Complexity moved for him, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't blame them. I wouldn't do it for the same reason you wouldn't do it. And I think if I was going to make the move, like I said it last week, if I'm Complexity, I'm getting Brokey. Because I think that one at least seems ambitious compared to oSee. I'm not sure an oSee move is ambitious. Yeah, I feel slightly bad for him. Who, oSee?
Yeah, I think.
In what sense?
Like, I think, like, I talked about the support overall he had. Like, I don't know. I don't think he would want to play that way.
Well, maybe not. But I think, like, I don't know. It's a hard one because you look at it and it's like, okay, where exactly is he going to go? Like, there's not many options unless he's happy to go full on international. Is he going to go to EG? Probably for money, but, like, that's a massive step down for him. Complexity, we've already said, we don't think that's necessarily the right move. Where else you look, like, OG have a decent enough AWPer. Fnatic have a decent enough AWP. Nip, like all of these teams have decent enough AWPers to the point where it's like, yeah, he probably is top 20, but he's gonna struggle to stay in that top 20.
Yeah,
and I feel bad for him, but yeah, it was an inevitability, because even when he seemed to improve, it wasn't to the level that was necessary.
yeah, he's in the same. Sorry, he's in the same tier as like loads of these AWPers, but he's not worth paying a buyout for and sorting a visa out in Europe. Like, he's not quite at that level where you think that's worth it to try and import him, is what I think. So hopefully he gets some call. Like, obviously he's played with core of that team before and was very good for them. So maybe we'll see that. But I don't think Skullz doing badly enough that is really fair on him.
No, I agree. Okay, then let's move on to the one that's the big name, the guy who would supposedly be returning home. Let's talk about Twistzz, because obviously, you know, you said it earlier, Twistzz, incredibly versatile player. At this point, he's won everything there is, and, you know, he's the only player to win 2 Grand Slams. Like, he's a pretty incredible player. You can argue for him being the GOAT of NA or whatever. It's not out of the question, especially considering the last couple of years. So, how big of a signing is it for Liquid, especially if, you know, if what Harumi was saying is true and Vitality were also in talks? Like, how massive is it that this time, well, last time they might have got a Rainwaker, this time they've got a Twistzz?
Oh, it's hard to put into words how big it is of a signing, because we know Liquid have this NA fan base as well, and it's like, signing Twistzz means you're always going to have that fan base. Like a Twistzz NAF duo, like,
yeah, get your American
care
fan
if the
base
other
back
three are
from
European.
Canadians.
Well, I mean North American is what I said, but fine.
Yeah, I know. But let's be real.
You know what I mean?
Let's be real.
Yeah, look, we're gonna be real. We're gonna be real. But this is the thing. It's like signing Twistzz and then having NAF as well. When complexity drop off, and they probably will drop off, like they're not going to be in the finals of every tournament. Like, that's just obvious. And then America's team will be the one that's the best one with some Americans in it. And having Twistzz and NAF means that they're going to fucking claim them. So you're tapping into that fan base while also having the 2 of the 3 best North American players in the same team, which also means that they're here on merit. They're not here because of the fan base type angle. Right? Like Twistzz and
2
NAF
of
are
the
just
3
fucking
best
good.
ever.
Best ever and best
2
right
of the 3.
now. Like,
yeah,
the same. So I think that's really important, because they're moving away from NA so much that they've got this real big, like, he could be franchised. Like, he's only 22 still, which is insane. I think it's 22. How old is he?
Nuts.
23.
Way.
He's turned 23 this year, probably. So he's still nuts young. Could play every role. I imagine he will have to come in and change up from his phase role quite a lot, because like you said, there's no real like Skullz and NAF are big anchors. They've always been anchors, really, and also very passive T side. So Twistzz, you're looking at, he's going to have to be in the entry pack with Yekindar, which is going to be quite difficult, like very difficult. It's normally like the IGL role, right? Like that kind of roaming T side player. I don't know if they actually will stick him in that, or if they'll cut Skullz or something, or Yekindar will stay as a roamer and Twistzz can do it on some maps and everything.
You're saying this, you know what the answer's going to be. Skullz is getting cooked. Skullz is getting cooked.
I don't know if he
will,
no way, because he's a specialist lurker, man. He's lurked since he was like 12. So I don't know. I think we can talk a little bit about main structure here because of how Twistzz fits in. Because the benefit of Twistzz is that for now, I think he will be in the entry pack. I think it's going to be him and Yekindar in the entry pack right now. I think that just makes sense based on Skullz and NAF. But if Skullz doesn't quite cut it, and I think he's really good, but if he doesn't quite cut it for whatever reason, you can sign someone who's more like an entry pack type player, and you can move Twistzz around, and Twistzz will be fine. And I think he probably has come back to Liquid because he didn't want to go full support, because if he does replace Magisk on Vitality, then you anchor every map, and you're the 4th guy in the pack, and also you're just happy to entry a lot. Like, Magisk has a fucking difficult role, and I think Twistzz probably backs himself to be a star player still and not have to completely devote himself to the support side of the game. So I think he's coming back to be a star player on CT side for sure. I think him and Yekindar are going to be the stars, and they're going to be the 2 highest fraggers in this team if it's working as it should on paper, and NAF should be that solid 3rd piece. So I think that's what attracted Twistzz back. I think he probably thinks he's got unfinished business. He didn't really want to leave Liquid. He just wanted to other people to get cut. But he's gone to FaZe. He's won it all, and now he's coming back with that real winners mentality. Like you couldn't get a better signing if you're trying to keep some NA in you, but also get someone who's actually fucking good at the game. And I think that's why Twistzz is. You just couldn't ask for more. Like if you're Liquid, like that's the guy who's always at the top of the shortlist, and it's kind of like grayed out because you're like probably won't happen, but it'd be great to have him back, wouldn't it? And they have.
Oh, he'd be top of the shortlist for any team that speaks English. Like that, you know, we said earlier, there's very few players that can do what Twistzz can do, and I'm pretty sure we said it last week or the week before as well. Probably in both of them. Like there's maybe 3-4 players equal to Twistzz in the world, and that doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, they're the best players in the world. They're still not Nico, they're still not Device, not Zywoo, and none of these players, but you don't get to have players like those three without players like Twistzz in behind them. And that's something that this version of Liquid has missed, the last version of Liquid has missed, the version of Liquid when Twistzz left was missing. Like, that is actually one of Liquid's main problems since when he leaves 2020, 21?
Maybe 21.
Like, you know, it's been their main problem for 2-3 years now, is that they never could replace Twistzz because there is maybe 2 other Twistzz players in the world, and they were both unobtainable, and before that Twistzz was. So managing to get him back, like, for me, this is the reason to be excited about this team. Like, it's not even cadiaN. Of course I'm excited for cadiaN, like, because I really like cadiaN, but he ain't the reason. Skullz has looked good every time I've watched him. Couldn't give less of a fuck though. Like, it's Twistzz, because I don't see a world where Twistzz is on a team that you don't look at it and think, okay, this might win this event, and you think that every time. And yeah, you know, it could be FaZe this year and they still bum out before playoffs all the time, but you never expected FaZe to do that before an event, and a large part of that will have always been Twistzz.
Yeah, and the question is, because we talk about him, we compare him to its third stars, right? We always compare him to the third star of a team. He's that kind of Magisk type figure. And now I think you kind of want Nav to be that guy, which means Twistzz needs to step up. And I think Twistzz, because it's FaZe and they've got that kind of like a quartet really of star players. Like I think I would still include Rain in it because of all those CT spots and how good he can be. That he didn't really, like, Twistzz always seemed to be like their best player when they were playing badly, and then when they were playing well, he was like third or fourth. And I think in this Liquid team, he's going to need to be top 2, whatever's going on. And I think he needs to be able to prove to himself that he can still be that star player, because mechanically CS2 suits him so well. Like, he should be fucking nuts at CS2. And I think that's kind of what they're banking on, is that he's still 23. Like, he's got a lot of fucking miles in his tank or whatever. I don't think he's going to have a super, super long career because he started so young. Like, he was literally 15 when he started playing pro. So I don't think he's going to have a super, super long career, but he's still young enough. And he's still got, I would say, like the latter half of his peak years to come. And I'm really interested to see if he can step up and be that kind of secondary star instead of being the tertiary star, because that is a big difference. And I think they're going to be looking at fragging from all 4 riflers, kind of like Heroic, honestly. I don't think there's going to be an outright star player, and I think Twistzz fits into that mold super, super well. I think he's bang exciting.
Okay, I've got a question then. If he's in the entry pack with Yekindar, who's the bait? Who's the beta?
But the thing, see, a team with Yekindar in it breaks any idea of structure, because Yekindar's dead already. Right? So,
no,
and I think if we're talking about a cadiaN system, that's not really how it works anyway. Like it was Tessa's Yabi and Shushul basically, like, were doing it. So I think it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to see, but I think they're all gonna have to have a go, basically. We know Twistzz is fine doing it. He's gonna have to do it sometimes. Probably not too much, because I think he will have been promised a degree of star extent. Like, you kind of want, like, someone with Twistzz aim should always be a trader, not the traded, I think. So if Yekindar's alive, he should be going in first. And that is how it works anyway. If Yekindar's alive, he does go in first. It's just he's so off a debt that he needs someone else to be able to do it. Right? So yeah, I think Twistzz, Naf, and Skullz are all actually quite passive, generally. I think I will come on to that of when we talk about Skullz, like profile-wise, is he who you'd have gone for? Like, I think I probably wouldn't. As much as I think Skullz is really good, I'm a bit worried they're repeating the Rainmaker mistake because it's pushing Twistzz into the entry pack and it's going to push Naf into some weird places on T-side as well. Like I think what this team really needed was Twistzz, basically. I think it needed Twistzz, a player like Twistzz, because if you have Twistzz and Yekindar in the pack and then Twistzz and Naf, right? Yeah, but this player, don't tell me that with Zeus's contacts is not a Brazilian guy who's more similar in role to what they wanted.
I don't disagree with that.
I think there's another clue in who they originally targeted, which is obviously Cesarao. I think that's the other clue, is that Skullz is basically a B-Tech Cesarao who plays all the same roles as him, T and CT. Like he's that kind of like star anchor. And I think that maybe Twistzz wants to be in the entry pack based on that, because he would have talked about it. They would have asked Twistzz, like, what kind of, how can we get the best out of you? And if they're trying to sign Cesarao as the other player, then I think there's a huge part of that situation that implies to me that Twistzz might want this. And I think we're going to have to believe that he does, because if they're looking for Cesarao and Skullz, like, this has to be the plan. The plan has to be Twistzz in the entry back.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So you'll have to deliver now.
Cesarao is telling of what they want in. It is just a massive shame that clearly he doesn't have the balls to escape his own prison.
Yeah,
literally offered to get out of jail.
13-2, by the way.
Like offered to get out of jail free card, and he's just like, no. I just want another loss, please. Thank you. Just shackle me. Like I don't. It's something to moan at a different time, but you're offered a golden ticket to a lineup that, if you're on it, definitely looks like a contender to a major. Probably does anyway. So from now on, Cesarao can go fuck himself in my books.
We don't know the full story. Like, as far as we know, he has declined it, but also it's a Furia contract. Like, what you get out of publicly saying, yeah, I really want to go, but my buyout's £14 million, so I could.
Well,
it's
yeah.
If you know you can't go, the PR response is always to say, well, yeah, I really believe in the Fulton project. Like, of course it is.
But well, I believe in the Fulton project.
I don't think he's a complete idiot.
Art was gone, but Art's still there, so
he's still there.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
should we talk about Skullz then? Because I think that's the flex point of this roster. What do you think of Skullz?
I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I've watched him a shit ton. I've watched him a few times. It's pretty good. Like, there's no doubt that he's pretty good. But it's hard, isn't it? Like, you can have a couple of good results at Tier 1 when maybe Tier 1 teams don't know you as much, they don't expect you as much, maybe they're not putting all their prep time into you because, after they play you, they've got to play Vitality. But, like you said, he can be a B-Tech Cesarao, or he is rather a B-Tech Cesarao, so if he can make that step up, which players do make just as often as they don't, why isn't it a great signing? Like, why is it not necessarily a great signing? Because exactly, like, when you factor in the last point of they were after Cesarao and now they're after Skullz, clearly there's some idea of the structure as they're building it. It seems planned. Like, I don't see a reason to not be positive, unless you don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think based on the plan they have, he's a really good signing. I think if you can't get Cesarao, there's not many other players that could do the lurking and the anchoring. But I think one of them is actually Naf. I think Naf is that guy. I think Naf should be that guy in a Liquid team if I was building it. And then I think you're looking for a different type of player. I think they could have benefited from a proper entry bitch, like I was saying. But I think if you are planning to build around kind of like a twin NAF setup, because that's what they wanted with Rainmaker, and that seems like what they still want with the Skullz or cadiaN. Like, they are very similar players to NAF. Very, very, very similar. Skullz is a bit more happy to sacrifice himself than cadiaN or NAF, and I think that'll be a good thing in this team, because I think NAF just needs to be comfortable that he's been your best player for too long. Just show him some respect and let him be the third star, and let Skullz kind of take a bit of the hit, which is a shame because he's so promising. But I also think they've paid 600k for him, so they can't do what they did with Rainmaker. Yeah, it's 600k. That's Dust2 BR reported it for when Fluxo, because Fluxo wanted Skullz. He agreed to join Fluxo. Like, this is, and then Liquid come calling. So this is the situation that Skullz is in. He didn't expect to be in, of having to go international, probably having to lose a few roles, but also under this huge pressure of that buyout. And it's a public buyout as well. Like, players have gone for huge fees before, but haven't been under the public pressure. And maybe it won't be talked about that much, and it's just because I, had to write the H2V report about it, so I know how much he went for. But yeah, 600k for a player like Skullz. You can't bid him after 3 months like you did Rainmaker. And if we're being honest, Rainmaker's performance in Tier 2 EU was not miles off what Skullz was doing in Brazil. It's pretty fucking similar, actually. The difference is that Skullz already plays anchor spots. The difference is he'll have Zeus, who will know the culture and be able to guide him a lot better, which I think is a huge difference. And also, you've got cadiaN IGL in you. And if you can't live for cadiaN, I don't know who you can.
There is also
Skullz
the fact that
should be
Skullz
moldable.
has played Tier 1.
Yes.
Rainmaker might have played like 4
stuff,
maps
right?
at Tier 1. Like, it's very different in that sense.
Skullz has played like freelance, but they're all good experiences. So yeah, and you've got a point.
And they did okay at all of them.
Yeah, Skullz was really good at the Challenger stage. That's when I kind of took notice of him. He dropped off a bit in the main event because, of course, he did, like everyone does. But he was really,
Wasn't he also really good at
stage.
that Pro League that they did well at?
I think he was solid, yeah. I think that was more of a Bigger Zero event, but I'm pretty sure.
Oh, no, that might have been Bigger Zero, actually.
Well, they were both good, right? They've both been good the whole time. But
what happened to him?
He became the IGL, didn't he? Well, Payne have just been... Well, this is the thing with Skullz, like, Bigger Zero and Skullz were supposed to be this sick duo, and then in the Brazilian Shuffle this summer, they just ended up with like 3 academy kids. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, it was really odd.
Really, really odd. But now Skullz is out. He's back in a real team, and I think we're going to see a different Skullz to what Brazilians might be used to in Liquid, because we're going to have to. He's going to have to buy into the cadiaN system of what he wants from all his riflers. He can't be the passive guy that he's used to being, because
I was going to ask
yeah.
this. Do you think that Skullz will become more of a shush?
I think that's kind of what they were looking for. I think they were probably prioritizing a CT side guy, like maybe a NAF big site, like Skullz small site, maybe. I don't know. I know it's hard to know exactly what the blueprint is without seeing it, but
I feel like it'll be
not
NAF
loads of
small
overlap.
site. I think it'll be
NAF
NAF
small site,
small
Skullz
site.
big site.
I think if you're looking at Mirage,
let me get it
I
up.
think NAF and Twistzz will be B side.
Yeah, so Skullz plays A on Mirage, I'm pretty sure. I'll have a look. Okay, because Skullz did an article on it. Completely rip off of my format, of course, but he did have a dive. So Skullz plays B on Vertigo, so NAF plays mid. Overpass, they're both monster. Nukes, they're probably both ramp, but NAF hasn't played it a lot. Mirage, Skullz does play A and NAF played B before, but NAF's played A, B, and short in the past 6 months or so. Who knows? Inferno, they're both B rotators. Anubis, Skullz plays A, but NAF has also played A recently. So yeah, it's very, very similar. And I think where they line up on that stylistically is going to be very key for how Skullz develops, because you're going to want him to be comfortable, but you also have to understand that he's going to need to develop. But I think he's young enough and he's moldable enough with Zeus over him and cadiaN over him that it should be fine. And I think he's very, like, the 600k complicates it because that's just so much money. It's so much money for someone who is as unproven as Skullz, right? But we know Liquid have deep fucking pockets. Like, they've got a budget as nearly as big as fucking Falcons, from what people are saying. So it makes sense that they're willing to kind of bank on this guy who's supposed to be Brazil's next big thing. because that's also huge. Liquid have huge links to Brazil in Rainbow Six and everything like that. I'm pretty sure, unless I'm completely jack shit. I remember someone saying that. So
I'm sure
having
they have
Zeus and
one or two
Skullz,
Brazilian teams.
and they've got that office in Sao Paulo, right? I'm pretty sure. So
Yeah, that sounds right.
yeah, so like having Skullz and Zeus is huge for that as well, because we know how important and big a region Brazil is for all sorts of like commercial reasons as well. So I'd like to move. I like to move. I wish that Case Raya had come, because I think, yeah, free Case Raya, I'm on board with that. I think Skullz, if he tries to play the same way as in Pain, he'll be too similar to NAF, and it'll be a similar problem that Rainmaker and NAF had, of one of them having to move. And I hope that they've learned from that, and that it's the young Skullz who has to move and not NAF.
The thing is with that, though, is that...
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I think the thing is with that and the Rainmaker NAF issue is that, they didn't have an IGL in that period. Like, let's not fuck about here. Let's not pretend for a moment like Yekindar was ever really an IGL. I also question how much... I think when they were, at least at that point, committed to Yekindar being IGL, I think maybe at that point is where Daps had already taken maybe a bit more of a back seat, so Yekindar can develop a style, can develop a system that works for him. I think that would have been the smart thing to do, regardless, and because otherwise, what's the fuck's the point in having an IGL? I think it's very different with cadiaN and with Zeus, because I think cadiaN and Zeus, they're both going to say, like, this is what we need out of you. And I think cadiaN will have it very set in his mind of, like, okay, NAF, you're fine. Like, you don't need to entry. Like, don't you worry about that. Like, you do your own thing. But Skullz, sometimes you got to fly out. Like, Yekindar, Twistzz, you're both just going to fly when I tell you to fly.
Very heavy rifle meta on CS2 anyway. I think cadiaN will do a lot of the fucking entering, which is a bit mental. But
yeah, so there's also that. But the difference is, this time as well, is, if his youth shows, if his inexperience shows, if there's naivety or anxiety, like any of these things that come from being that less experienced professional, fucking Zeus is there. And that's not the same as... It's the same team with Daps. It's not the same, because it's someone from his nation who is experienced, who is ridiculously well respected within the national scene, which in that context is far more important than whatever Zeus's name is internationally. And it's to that reason I just don't see why Skullz will struggle. I think there's everything in place for Skullz to be a top 20 rifler next year. Because I think this team, if it clicks, I don't think there's any reason why any of the riflers couldn't be in the top 20. That's not to say they all will, because of course they all fucking won't. Like, I think the only time a team has had 4 riflers in the top 20 is Astralis, right?
Yeah. They had all 5.
Well, yeah. Like, it's not going to happen. But I don't see a reason why any of these 4 riflers can't go in the top 20, which, as an extension of that, I think if that was the case, then cadiaN would also be able to be in the top 20, because I do think this team could win a lot. And I think with what's happening to other teams, like, if fucking... I know they've said Monacy's not for sale, but if Monacy and Nico go, good luck replacing those two. Like, Vitality potentially losing Magis, are losing Magis, whatever. Good luck replacing him. Ents maybe losing Snappy. Fucking good luck replacing him. Like, sincerely, good luck. You're not fucking doing it.
Yeah.
Try again in 2 years. Like, this Liquid... And it's funny considering what we said in the past, or what I said in the past about Heroic capitalising off a weak scene, and cadiaN therefore capitalising off a weak scene because it could be about to happen again with Liquid. Like it could be. But who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck? Because the only thing that's going to matter is, like, to these players is what they win at the fucking time. They're not going to look back on it a year later and go, oh yeah, but FaZe no longer existed and Vitality, Ents and G2 rule shit. Like, no, fuck it. You just won a major. Who gives a fuck? Like, who cares?
Yeah.
So if they win and they keep winning, like, good for them.
The one thing we haven't really touched on is Yekindar as a player. And I know it's probably because we're trying to be positive. For a change, we're trying to be positive. And both of us probably don't believe in Yekindar as much as a player as maybe like a lot of people do. But do you think he'll be a problem on this team? Or do you think he can get back to kind of that star player that, you know, that was linked with Navi and James Lieutenant, all that? Do you think he'll be able to listen to cadiaN and kind of shackle something? I'm
gonna say it off the bat. Because I would just like it to be out there before I try and be positive afterwards. I don't think in my 7 years of watching Counter-Strike, I have ever seen a player as overrated as Yekindar. Because this is the thing with people who watch Counter-Strike, right? They just see some fucker who goes flying round a corner, rips a couple of headshots one round, and they're like, wow, he's fucking amazing. And they look at the good games where he's got the nice little HLTV rating and his KD's like +5 or whatever, and they're like, wow, he's sick. And they see him do all this shit online, and they're like, wow, he's so good. And then curiously, it gets to the games where he's negative by 5 kills and he's gone round that corner and he hasn't got those 2 headshots. And they don't get to the end of that game and go, wow, Yekindar really cost them that game, did they? Didn't he? Like, no, these fuckers, they all fucking, oh, well, oSee didn't have 35 kills. Like, all right, let's go fuck yourselves now, right? Look, Yekindar turned Liquid around because it was fucking doomed with shocks. And he definitely had a huge impact on the team because Nitro also just obviously wasn't there and he helped all of that. That doesn't mean Yekindar hasn't been a problem at points. And it will never not mean that Yekindar isn't often a problem for the teams that he's on. But the issue with that is that it's a play style. But what I will say there, and it's similar to Skullz in a sense, I'm not sure Yekindar will have ever had, like, behind him and next to him what he's going to have on this team. Like, I won't take anything away from JM. I'm not going to take anything away from JM.
Yeah, JM does sound good.
Like, JM is great. I'm not going to say Dassan's equal to Zeus, though. I'm not going to do that.
Well, no, of course.
And I'm not going to say that Nitro and Daps, I think it was Daps the whole time, right? Daps joined the same time as Yekindar, just before? Yeah.
Yeah, Cologne.
Like, let's not fuck about. Nitro and Daps is a good few steps below cadiaN and Zeus. And probably a couple steps below JM and Dastan. So if anyone's going to refine his playstyle, it will be this team. If anyone's going to teach Yekindar, this is when you push too much. This is when, you know, you went flying last round. Just hover this round. Like, just let them come to you. Like, trust your aim. Don't trust this weird instinct that you don't have all the time because you can't be consistent with that type of instinct. Like, it isn't going to work all the time. So if any team's going to sort that out, it's them. But I also think if anyone will know how to utilize that like perfect little moment of chaos, it will be cadiaN.
Yeah,
because I think Heroic thrived off chaos.
But I was going to say that yes, like that element of the chaos, I think is huge. I think cadiaN's always been very much about structured chaos, and also there's the thing with IGLs of, and you have this in our shitty little fucking open team. cadiaN's a bit of a, he likes having system players and he likes having soldiers, I think. because that's what Heroic is. Heroic is a team of soldiers who do what the fuck cadiaN says, right?
I love
And
soldiers.
and I think Yekindar is happy to be a soldier for Jane, who told him everything he knows about the game and everything like that. And I think Yekindar could be happy to be a soldier for cadiaN if the results go the right way. And I think Yekindar can be a very, very good part of a successful team. I don't ever like Yekindar being the best player on the team, ever. I think that's awful team building if he's having to be the best player on the team, because those decisions that he makes just end up being worse, because he doesn't take the same risks if he trusts his teammates. It's the same as anything. We've seen it with lots of very good players over the years. If you're playing with shit teammates and you don't rate your teammates, and Yekindar clearly hasn't rated his Liquid team the whole time he's been there. At least to me, it seems that way. And I think he plays differently because of that. Because I think in VP, he was still a nut job running around corners, but it was in a much more structured way. And I think that's the blueprint that Liquid need to be looking at. And cadiaN needs to shackle Yekindar a decent amount, but not too much, because you still want to have that X factor, obviously. But I think if we just tone Yekindar down a little bit, and I think that will just naturally happen because there's going to be more structured calling, and Yekindar can focus on his crosshair and be that X factor, and it'll be fine. I do think Yekindar's going to be much better in this team than he's been in the last few years. I think that's just inevitable, because he was still so good in VP, and that is a very structured team. He is capable of operating within a system that shackles him a little bit. But I think the difference is that James likes having that X factor. Like he's tried to sign Chiron, he's signed aggressive players to try and fill the Yekindar void, whereas I think cadiaN likes soldiers. I think if you swap Yekindar for like a Twistzz type figure, I think cadiaN would find it easier to call. But maybe what we're talking about with Heroic is that lack of a ceiling. And I think Yekindar, if he can be like a little bit more consistent, especially in those big games when you really rely on him to be the same X factor that he is in like the smaller games, that's kind of where you can see a team with a Heroic system maybe push it over the edge, because suddenly there's something different going on, right? Like, did you see that angle with Yekindar being able to push them over the edge in a situation where, like, what's the backup plan for the cadiaN system failing? Because Heroic never ever had one, because Stan's not that guy.
Well,
But
this is
Yekindar
the
could
thing,
be, right?
This is the thing, right? Because, so there's a couple of things you said that I think can tie into this point. So you said you never want Yekindar to be the best player on the team. I don't think he is on this team. In fact, I think in 6
He's
months'
got a
time...
case for it though, right?
No, of course he has a case for it. And on his good days, he's going to look like he's far and away the best player on this team. This is without a question, because that's what Yekindar looks like on any good day. On a Yekindar good day, there's very few players in the world that rival him. That's whatever. I think in 6 months' time, though, when we're actually talking about, this team and the structure of it, yes, CT, he's going to be in that top two. It'll be him and Twistzz in those, like, rotator type roles, the good CT spots. T-side, it might be Twistzz and Naf. Like, it really wouldn't surprise me if it's Twistzz and Naf, if we see Twistzz be that bit more of a stone, and we see Yekindar, he's not going to be Twistzz, because he's a better player than Twistzz. He is just a better player than Twistzz. So to go back to what you said, yeah, Yekindar can be that X factor. Yekindar can be the reason that when they're down, when the going gets tough, like, Yekindar might just be the one to be like, all right, Casper, look, this round, I'm going here. Throw a flashbang for me. We will win the round. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter if he's flying out ramp, if he's running through toilets, going through con, it won't matter, because in that round, Yekindar and Yekindar's skill set will allow Liquid routes into rounds that Twistzz would have never been able to get in Heroic. Mm-hmm. And then behind that, if it doesn't work, the difference is on this team to Heroic is as Twistzz. Twistzz isn't a fucking bottler. Twistzz has won 2 Grand Slams. He's won a fucking major. Twistzz was the one that in Cologne last year, when the score was tied in the last map, Twistzz was the one that's like, all right, now it doesn't matter who called it, but Twistzz was the one that in his head thought, yeah, we're going to do a play that is based around me. It's based around me hitting a fucking millisecond perfect timing which go back and watch that round, it fucking is. Look when that smoke drops by Mini. It's based on him hitting a perfect timing, so he has to hit perfect movement before that lands. It gets, what, 2 entries, is it? Like,
yeah,
it's
I think maybe
the
3.
entire thing is built around him doing that. Now let's go back to your little table or graph, I can't remember what the fuck it looks like, about players in big matches, and let's remind ourselves which name is on the bottom. Was Stown ever fucking doing that? Was Stown ever the one that was comfortable to be there? Like, yeah, fuck it, this round's on my back. Like, we're gonna, this round is gonna switch up everything, and we're gonna win this game because of this play. No, but Liquid's gonna have 2 of these fuckers. That's the reason to be excited for this team, because yes, Yekindar has faults. Skullz might not work. Twistzz might have to adapt again. But why can't it all work? It's not the same as the last roster. It's not the same as looking at Patsy and thinking, wow, that's Yekindar, and Rainmaker and thinking, wow, that's Naf. It's not the same in the slightest. This is a team that can adapt, that can work. And the more we've been speaking about it over this last 50 minutes or so, the more I think it is going to work, and this team will be number 1 at some point next year.
Yeah, honestly, I agree. I think cadiaN's got the chops to be able to balance these 4 very, very good riflers into a cohesive team, where it's okay if one of them's off. Doesn't matter who's having it. Like, these are all, like, clearly the fucking blueprint for your cadiaN teams to have 4 equal fragging riflers, I think, and that is the same here. Like, okay, on paper, Twistzz and Naf are gonna, Twistzz and Naf might be the 2 players I think are the best on this team, but I think also there's a situation where Twistzz and Yekindar might be their 2 best CT side players, and like you're saying, Twistzz and Naf T side. I think a lot of it does ride on Twistzz to be because I think he is supposed to be the stand figure. Even if Yekindar stays as the secondary caller, I think Twistzz will be the one who's able to kind of be the baby boy, I think. Hopefully. I think that's what you have to do with a player like Twistzz, is to let him play to his strengths. And I think that's kind of convincing me even more. Like, I think it does ride on Twistzz, but like, it's not like Naf and Skullz and Yekindar aren't bad players. Like, this is very even fragging. What I think has been the best IGL of the last year. And
last year, Snappy.
Okay, yeah, Snappy. Top 2 IGL of the last year. Fine.
Thank you.
And like, fucking hell, like, yeah, Liquid have spent a lot of money, but I think Skullz, if you're not going to get Queserato, and obviously they're never going to get Queserato, from what it seems, Skullz is fucking banging. Skullz is great. I know I was high on Rainmaker, even when they cut him. I think Rainmaker could have done a job. I still think he could have done a job, but I'm not going to say that Skullz isn't a better player than him. Of course he is. I don't think Skullz is 600k better than him. But if you got the fucking deep pockets, why not, mate? Why not? Chuck it out. Just get him in. Get in these 4 sick riflers.
Here's what I will say on that. I agree. Skullz probably isn't 600k better than Rainmaker, and Skullz certainly isn't Queserato. But if you're looking at the new game, and if you're looking at, you want to take your team to a place it hasn't been in a long time, where, Liquid could go up against any of the teams ahead of them, even Vitality at Cato when they beat them, which is probably the last decent fucking playoff game they had, like 8 months ago or whatever, and even then they got battered for a half. You've never looked at that Liquid team and thought, man for man, this team will beat the team opposite them. You don't do it with Ents, FaZe, G2, Vitality, Na'Vi. You don't do it with any of them. So when you're talking about one of these 2 players, Skullz and Rainmaker, putting Liquid in that place, it's not going to happen instantly. But Skullz could be a fucking superstar. Skullz,
yes,
in 6 months' time, Skullz could be the best player on this team. He probably won't, because he probably won't have that place in the system. But Shush was realistically the best player on Heroic, and he didn't have that place. All right, maybe second after Yabby, before Yabby dropped off. Like, at 600k, in the same way that G2 spent 600k and Nip spent whatever they spent on Head Trick, Vitality, whatever they spent on Spinks, that's the signing to sign someone who can be a superstar, and who, I don't know how old Skullz is, but who you're looking at a new game and thinking this guy could play with us for a long time in this game, because Liquid have a very established history of keeping people for a fucking long time. And I think that's definitely what they're thinking about here.
I think the Skullz Zeus combo, if this Liquid team are here to stay, I would love the Skullz Zeus combo to be a little bit of to be here for like the first 5 years too. I think Zeus for me is up there, and I think we could have touched on it more, but obviously there's a lot to cover on this. Zeus for me is up there with Blade and Zonic. I think he's a top 3 coach for global offensive. I think the SK team
I
and the
agree.
Liquid
I was
team,
going to say that.
I think he is of that caliber and of that like gravitas inside a team. I think he's really fucking up there, and they need to keep hold of him this time. There's no fucking last dance that he's going to fuck off to this time. Keep him. Keep Zeus. cadiaN, I don't know how much Zeus will have an impact on the system. I hope he's kind of not too much. It's more like the Zonic in Skullz. Like, he really helps, but he's more there as the father figure. Like, he's obviously got a lot more to it, to the tactical side of his game as well, but I want cadiaN to have the final say in system. I want Yekindar to be a good mid-rounder and help with macro maybe, but strip it back big time. I want Zeus and cadiaN to be the 2 biggest voices at all times. And I think that should happen. And I think if Yekindar can exist within that system, this team has enough firepower to, it could be number 1, especially with a scene influx. Like, that major's still 5-6 months away. And if this team hits the ground running, then like, wow. Like, this, all of a sudden, a Liquid, a team we've laughed at for a long time, really. Like, I know everyone was like, oh, we'll actually like top 3 team in 2022. They just, well, I don't care. Yeah, they just got to a few finals. They just got battered. So I never really rated that old Liquid team at all, to be honest.
Pro League was 5 maps. I'm not sure they got battered.
Yeah, Vitality battered in 3-2. I think the old Liquid team was never going to ever hit the heights that I think the ceiling of this team is, because Skullz might be similar to Rainmaker, but he's Rainmaker with a really high ceiling. Like, Skullz has a very high ceiling.
This new team's
I think you could say that this whole team.
This new team's floor is as good as that last team's ceiling.
Yeah, in theory it should be. It just should be. So here we are. Is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? I hope so. I think Liquid has spent enough money. They've been committed to CS. I would be happy to see them have success again.
I mean, you know my thoughts. I got my little Captain America jersey in the drawers next to me. So anyway, I think that's it from me. If there's anything else you want to add, but I feel like I've gave my closing statement and you've gave yours. So instead, let's flip it round. How good do you guys think that this Liquid roster can be? Do you think it can win a major? Do you think it might even win the one in Copenhagen? Or maybe it'll be the future one that, as far as I'm aware, is yet to be announced. I don't know. Is that announced?
No,
probably not, right? It happens sometime close to the major. But yeah, other than that, like the video, subscribe to the channel. We'll be back next week to talk about some team that probably currently doesn't exist. So we'll catch you in the next one.